Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. For Travel Through Uncertainty is now a good time to go. Uh, and I want to keep this relatively informal. It's a case of, for like me, perhaps you think some of the uncertainty of traveling would have settled down after we had the COVID lockdowns and got through all those things. But this year, then we've got the fact of different geopolitical events and new visa and passport requirements. More uncertainty comes into play, and along with that can come worry and quite possibly more expense. Uh, so I also want to get across the idea about travel can sometimes be considered as a reward for when we get there, when we get to our life vision. So we want to have a look at that too. It's going to be relatively informal, I should say, my thoughts. And you're welcome to jump in with any thoughts along the way, but we will have a wee chat at the end for anything else. So, is now a good time to go? I think it's always now is the best time to go. And I also work from the point, my favorite quote that I have on the cover of my life book is beyond sculptures and symphonies, beyond great works of art and masterpieces, is the greater, finer art of moulding a conscious life. And for me, that conscious life does include travel. It's been the constant since my childhood. We did a little bit of Europe traveling when I was little, and then we took an ocean liner when I was 7 years old across the world to New Zealand from the UK. And as a parent, I really saw the value of travel for my children, and now in later life, with my partner, my husband now, Greg and I just have a shared love of travel, and we've been sharing that through our 50 plus backpack travels online. Travel is a very key part of what was a key part of my life vision originally, and has been a regular part of my life through that time. So let's face it, we want to do conscious traveling. Traveling unconsciously is one, not advised, and two, not nearly as much fun. So my answer to the question, is it a good time to go? Obviously, it's going to be yes, and I think as life bookers, you may well agree, but there's still uncertainty sometimes. But John often says we're living in a golden age that nobody's noticed. It's like the world is saying everything's gone to wherever, and uh, but we in life, but we tend to look for the silver lining and all the things we do have to be grateful for. In fact, I looked up some statistics, and while our population has grown hugely, apparently in 1990, the percentage of people living below the poverty line was a lot higher than it is now. Uh, and that's, yeah, just in the last few years. And looking back to the dark ages, okay, things would be quite different then. So, but doom and gloom would have us believe that the world is a terrible place now. And I don't dismiss that there is hardships, and for a lot of people, life can be difficult. But our expectations, especially in the first world, have changed. And what people expect to be able to get out of life without making choices is sometimes higher than is what's actually realistic. One of the thoughts I've had recently is about the fact that the news brings us the world's exceptions every day, but travel can introduce us to the world's ordinary people. It dismantles the illusion that people are not like me. So it doesn't just teach us about the world. It can always teach us that the world is larger, more complex, more welcoming, and often more human than the variety or the version we carry around in our head. An example of where worry can kick in is our in February 28th, I recall, we decided to plan our next 6 months of travel. And because the insurance for travel we use gives us a 6 month window out of the country, we planned it by booking our travel home first. So we booked that for the end of November, and we booked it with Singapore Airlines from Dubai, back via Singapore, Australia, to home. And then the next day, of course, the news broke about everything happening in the Middle East. So yes, there was a moment of, oh gosh, we've locked in some flights and now look, that's not going to work. But it's kind of like that's a long way off. Uh, and we sort of regrouped a little and thought, okay, Singapore Airlines have looked after us in the past. We had flights booked with them in 2020, and they didn't let us down, and and were more than happy to refund those flights, and we were able to rebook when we could travel in 2022. So we trust Singapore Airlines. We also trust that if they choose, after August, because they've cancelled all flights from Dubai until August. If they choose to take their planes and their people through Dubai, then we trust that the situation will be such that we'll be fine there. And I know people in Dubai are doing fine at the moment anyway, but it still throws in that extra level of uncertainty. So having a plan, we have that uncertainty, we have this little gap in our travels that we don't know if we want to come back from Europe via Dubai or not, and that's okay. We just have some different options up our sleeve and we'll wait till closer to the time to sort that. Um, what I try to do in a stressful situation is engage my curiosity. What I also am really happy with. I've got Greg by my side, who is a very practical bear and thinks of, yeah, will sit down and go through the logic of a situation. And that's really helpful too. And I actually want to, this month being Love Relationship Month, I would like to do a session on traveling as a couple, which is the next one I will do before the end of the month. Okay, so I based, and you'll see in the description, this event on the book I was reading called Why Travel. It's actually called Why Travel Matters. And in Why Travel Matters, Craig Staughty, he actually takes a very cerebral approach to it. It was way more than I expected, and I learned all about how our brain interprets the world, how it sees the familiar and the unfamiliar. It was a really interesting book that I found at the library. So Craig Staughty, Why Travel Matters. And he reminds us that part of our education through travel is actually about ourselves. And this is the other point I want to make, that as life bookers, we we often we're looking to that future place, to that future life vision, but needing to remember to bring it back to the now. For me, I can imagine I could have sewn together all the pieces of my life vision in a neat package and really pulled together full financial resources so I didn't have to worry. And all the bits and pieces at home, so I had everything perfect at home, and then go traveling. And what's possible, not just possible, but very likely, is that when you get out the door, suddenly you have to unpick it all and start again. And while revising our life book is always a good idea, I feel there is such value in the fact that travel shines a light on who we are. By stripping away our everyday life, we have the opportunity to open up ourselves as well as the world. My airport self is a very different self to the self I am at home. And I see sides of myself and I improve myself by seeing how I respond to different things. When I'm faced with uncertainties, those very uncertainties are a wonderful learning tool. One of the things Craig says is after their first taste of difference, most surprisingly, not surprisingly, most travelers can't wait to taste it again. And I think that is a key, that we can be fearful of difference, but in fact, uh, it's that very essence of the differences out there in the world that makes travel exciting and interesting and encourages us to be curious in our everyday life as well. So I'm currently reading another book that I found at the library called Dreaming of Jupiter. Now, when I was 18 years old, I read Jupiter's Travels about an English journalist at 42. He got a Triumph motorcycle and rode all the way around the world. And it's a bit of a cult classic. And at 18, it impacted me. And I was actually at the beginning of a river rafting trip with my mother's tramping group when I was reading this. And I read the line, was my journey really nothing more than a state of mind? And that switched something in me. It's not something I've always stuck with, but at the time I was with all these old people, they were most of them were at least 10 years older than me. It's kind of like with my mum. It's a very bumpy ride, getting into the rafting place and things. And I switched, thought, okay, can I shift the way I see this and actually decide that I'm really, really lucky to be here and I'm going to really enjoy it. And of course I did. And I enjoyed the bush, the river, the excitement, the exhilaration of the rapids, and even got a sense of how people see and deal with challenges, such as when a raft flips and when, creating strange breakfast combos when the food's almost run out on the last day. And that brings me to the taste of a place. So I don't know yeah, tasting, approaching with all our senses and the uncertainty of the food, the uncertainty of the smells and the um, experience of getting up close with the real life of where you are is really important to me. So in Jupiter's Travels, the younger Ted, when he went at 42, he tasted difference because he was hungry for adventure. But the older Ted, so the second book, is when he actually decides to repeat his trip at the age of 70 odd in 2001, he started out again. And the older Ted was more hungry for understanding, and he found the world a very different place in at that time compared to back in the 70s. And but I think that's the reason, as more mature travelers, that we want to continue traveling. It's not because we think the world is perfectly safe, but because we've discovered that remaining curious is a richer way to live than remaining certain. Um, we don't want to eliminate the uncertainty, but we want to become someone who can meet it with openness rather than fear. Travel does dismantle the illusion that most people are not like me. It can be easy to fear other people and other cultures and to be focused on, are they going to scam me? They look different to me. Gosh, their food's weird. Um, it's easy to focus on fear that there are pickpockets around and things like that. And yes, we need to be prepared. But what actually has reminded me recently of um, not being scared to look stupid. And part of that is, trying to get by in another language. I've recently found there's another English fellow, actually, Simon Wilson, online. He he does extreme travel in a way. It's not extreme adventure. He stays in one-star places and he stays in luxury places and he takes his mum to random places around the world sometimes. And he he will choose the worst hostel in Sydney, for example, and see what it's like. But what he does, his style, is he actually talks to everybody, and even the sternest check-in desk person, he gets them engaged. He starts to ask them how their day is, how long they've been there, and I really want to take a leaf out of his book that he actually is prepared to look dumb with the questions he asks. Um, but instead, he opens other people up, and in turn, he gets a far deeper experience of the humans behind who's the train attendant or who is the cleaner in the hallway at the hostel. Uh, he really connects with people, and it's only briefly, but he reaches out, he shakes their hand, he thanks them for what they're doing, And that really inspires me to actually be more open uh, in that experience. I found it quite interesting in Why Travel Matters. Craig, he quotes other people quite a lot from even back in older times, and he quotes from The Englishman Abroad, Hugh and Pauline Massingham. The ideal traveller is someone who goes out to learn. He is a person who, even as he wickedly observes the Italians juggling with spaghetti or listens to the tiresome yodeling of the Swiss, can look at himself and realize that he is equally funny. And I think that sums some of it up for me because it's being prepared to laugh at yourself on the journey as you fumble with a language app and try and get across what you want to say because they're not infallible. Sometimes they do make you look silly, but probably no sillier than you'd look if you couldn't handle the language at all. Being prepared to um, step out of your comfort zone and go into a back street or go into a local area, not stay in the touristy places, go somewhere a little bit different. Yeah, be mindful, always being mindful of your safety, but yeah, asking for advice from locals. Yeah, it's a really opening up oneself to what is possible with the experience and knowing that there will be continuous uncertainties. The accommodation won't be what you expect, or they'll have lost your booking and you won't have a room. Uh, the cost of things may not be as expected, or it will more invariably be more. Occasionally, you get a good surprise and it's less, and we encourage that, but generally the costs of travel, I have a fairly safe bet this year. I'm going to have to budget more for these coming travels, and that's okay. It matters to me to be out there and experiencing it. Um, so my take on the current uncertainties is you could waiting for the next things to change, waiting for like in our country, I see people, right, we're not making any major decisions this year because it's an election year. We, yeah, we don't want to buy a house or change jobs or anything because we have to wait and see what happens in the election. Invariably, um, particularly here, it doesn't actually make that much difference to your day-to-day life right here and now and your immediate decisions, what happens in the election. But holding off and continuing to hold off on doing the things that you really want to do and things that will um, just make such a difference to your life and improving your understanding of yourself, I feel just isn't necessary. So so yeah, my thoughts is just go, be prepared, and above all else, staying curious. Staying curious, part of that is aware, and yeah, see what the journey brings. Yeah, any thoughts, perhaps from you, JJ or Talia, on the uncertainties of travel right now and what travel means to you?
Well, thank you, Mari. Um, I was curious about your presentation, and I also feel uncertain about traveling this year. Usually travel at the end of the year, but now here the war, and everything is just a little tight.
Yes.
Um, but hearing you speak, about this more, I wanted to do more mature travel, more have a different awareness because it's always, it's a rush to get out there. It's just it's a vacation, but there's I enjoyed it and I enjoyed the whole experience, but it seems like it's rush all the time.
Mm,
Before I leave, there's other preparations, and just to get out of to travel for 2 weeks is a mission to get prepared. So I wanted to have another a different way of seeing it. Um,
yes.
and and hearing you about those books that you're reading, maybe I'll start reading those books too to see what I can learn.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important for me to travel. This year I'm still not decided yet. I haven't made any plans. Usually by this time, I already start planning, but yeah. So I just
Mm,
I'm just curious, and I enjoy your experience and your share. Thank you.
yeah. Great. And I think that's it. You can apply the thoughts and the ideas of in my experience recently it's longer term travel, but even if you only have 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks to go to a place, then yeah, picking a place that you're curious about, not rushing too much because invariably if that's all the time you've got, you will be busy at home before and after, and you want to be able to really slow down and appreciate, dive deep into one place. It's not a time to be um, trying to see all the hot spots of one country. It's just not enough time, is it? Yeah, so what time did you say later in the year, towards the end of the year, you were looking at traveling?
Yeah, usually I travel around September, October. Now I'm going to travel probably a bit later, November,
Yeah.
December. Uh,
Yeah.
Usually I travel maybe 2 times a year. So this time I'm probably going to travel only that time at the end of the year.
Mm, yeah.
Um, but we'll see. We'll see. I usually travel
Yeah.
more, but things change.
Yes, things do. And there is, I recognize there is uncertainties, and there is, some commentators think the fuel situation is going to get worse in the next few months. And that is something that we may have to deal with. Uh, it's really hard to know because there are different thoughts on that. Um, yeah, but I feel like, if, sometimes, I've often been like I book the cheapest fare and hope for the best. But I think at these times maybe there is an advantage in booking something that's refundable, that you can change your mind, you can change the dates, uh, and so you've got. I think for me it's important to have that um, have that experience locked in, as in you've got it to look forward to. But if you need to shift it around a bit or change where you're going to go, if it's going to be problematic, and the reality is you can have the travel experience in your own country as well, and that's a whole nother type of travel. To be in your own country or to not go as far so that you've got options for getting home. If that is something that is challenging for you. But I do think, we are more in a time where the uncertainty means having those changeable bookings, having options, finding the airlines that have good refund or change packages is a good way to go. So yeah, so I wish you luck in finding um, your ideal trip for this year, and finding that time to get that locked into place. I know Talia's been traveling already this year, and I think she's away again in September, she told me. So I think she's definitely done a lot more traveling than I have this year. This year, my travel so far has only been within my own country, flying up north for family events, and yeah, spending time with family, and that's a whole different kind of travel. It can vary, and that's an interesting thing. It varies a lot depending on who you're with. If you're traveling with children, if you're visiting relatives. But I have to say, my favorite traveling is traveling with my partner, with my husband Greg, and we're looking forward to heading off next week. Uh, I have no doubt that our travel itinerary plans will change along the way. Uh, but that is probably something, I'll be sharing the beginning of that when we do our next session, probably in the last week of this month from Vietnam. So it'll be at a different time of day. Uh, and yeah, on traveling as a couple. I'm looking forward to immersing myself back into that world again. So yeah, yeah, thanks JJ for being on today, and thanks Talia for joining. And Kinga, I'm sorry I missed you because I was out of the Zoom room trying to figure out my slideshow, which seems to have become a bit reluctant to run. But what I will do is I will pop the slides in the event along with the recording, so people can have a look at those and actually check out the books that I was going to share with you. In actual fact, I have got Dreaming with Jupiter here, which is the more recent one, and then my battered old copy of Jupiter's Travels from uh, 30 something years ago. Yeah. 30 a lot, actually. Yeah. No, it's over 40 years ago. Yeah, 40-year-old copy. So, yeah. So, thank you for joining me today. And it's been really lovely to have you on and to be able to share some of my stories with you. Hi.